I woke up before the alarm because my heart refused to sleep. But today isn't a normal day, I whispered to the ceiling. It's my wedding day. I grabbed my phone and saw a message from Lena. Are you awake? I typed back. I didn't sleep. She replied instantly. Good. I thought I was the only one nervous. I laughed softly. You? Nervous? You planned everything. That doesn't make it less scary, she wrote. I stared at her words and smiled. In a few hours, you'll be my wife, I typed. I already feel like I am, she replied. My chest felt warm reading that. I got out of bed and walked into the kitchen where my mother was making tea. You're up early, she said without turning. I couldn't sleep, I admitted. She turned and smiled. Big day. The biggest. She hugged me tightly. Your father will be proud today. I swallowed hard. I hope so. My sister Hannah rushed in, still in pajamas. Do not cry before the ceremony, she warned. I'm not crying, I said. You will, she teased. You cried during sad commercials. That was one time. She grinned. Lena is already texting me hearts. She texted me too, I said. You two are disgustingly in love, Hannah laughed. My phone buzzed again. It was Mark. Groom alive, his message read. I called him instantly. You better be dressed, he answered. You better be ready to give the best speech ever. Relax, he said. I planned this whole wedding. Nothing can go wrong. I laughed. You sound too confident. Trust me, he replied. Today will be perfect. I whispered, I hope so. Hours later, I stood in a suit staring at the mirror. You look handsome, my mother said from the doorway. I feel like I'm going to faint. That means you care, she said. At the venue, Mrs. Cole greeted me. The bride is getting ready, she said. Everything okay? Perfect schedule, she assured. Guests filled the hall. Music played. Mark slapped my shoulder. Ready? No, I admitted. Too late, he laughed. The ceremony started and I took my place. My heart pounded as the music changed. I whispered, this is it. But the doors didn't open. I frowned at Mark. Where is she? He forced a smile. Probably nerves. Guests began whispering. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. I pulled out my phone. A message appeared from Lena. I opened it. I'm sorry. I can't marry you. My hand started shaking. I whispered, this is a joke. My mother grabbed my arm. What happened? I couldn't speak. I showed her the phone. She gasped. No. Hannah whispered, call her. I called Lena. It rang once, then went off. Mark looked pale. Try again. I dialed again. Voicemail. My chest felt hollow. Mrs. Cole approached slowly. We can delay. I shook my head. She's not coming. A man rushed inside and whispered to Mark. I watched Mark's face drain of color. I grabbed his arm. What is it? He hesitated. I think you should sit. Tell me, I demanded. He whispered. She left with someone. My ears rang. Who? He didn't answer. I shouted, who? He whispered. Another man picked her up this morning. I stepped back. No, my mother cried. I laughed weakly. This isn't real. Guests stared as whispers grew louder. Hannah hugged me. I'm so sorry. I felt every eye on me. I whispered. She chose someone else. My voice cracked. On our wedding day, I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a sharp sound. I looked at the altar and whispered, my life just ended. Mark tried to speak. I didn't know. I stared at him. You planned everything. I swear, he said. I shook my head. Everyone is here. My mother whispered, we can send guests home quietly. I nodded slowly. I took a step toward the crowd. My voice trembled. Thank you all for coming. Silence filled the room. The wedding is canceled. Gasps echoed. Please go home safely. People slowly stood and left. My legs felt weak. Hannah whispered, let's go home. I nodded. As we walked out, I looked back once. The empty aisle blurred through tears. I whispered goodbye, Lena. And in that moment, my world shattered in front of everyone I loved. Outside, my mother held my face. We will get through this. I whispered, how? She said, one day at a time. Hannah squeezed my hand. You're not alone. I nodded but felt empty. I whispered, I thought today would be the happiest day of my life. My mother replied softly, it still could be someday. I closed my eyes. I said, let's go home. We walked away from the venue together. I didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything in my life began to fall apart. I whispered to myself, I don't understand why. No answer came. Only silence and the sound of my heart breaking. I knew nothing would ever be the same again. For me, forever changed. The drive home felt silent and heavy. I stared out the window until my father finally spoke. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I swallowed. "She left." He gripped the steering wheel. "Left how?" "She ran away." "With who?" "I don't know," I whispered. Yet, when we reached home, the door opened before we knocked. My father hugged me tightly. "I'm here," he said. I broke. "I don't understand." "You don't have to understand tonight," he replied. "Just breathe." Inside, the house filled with relatives. Their whispers crawled across my skin. I heard she ran away. Poor boy. What a shame. I clenched my fists. Hannah whispered, "Ignore them." "I can hear every word," I said. "They don't matter," she replied. "They do today," I muttered. My aunt approached. "You deserve better." I forced a smile. "Thank you." Another relative said, "At least it happened before marriage." I nodded, but inside I screamed. My father sat beside me. "Talk to me." "I don't know what to say." "Say anything." "I feel stupid," I admitted. "You are not stupid. I planned my whole future with her." He sighed. "Sometimes people change." On the wedding day, I asked bitterly. My mother sat silently across the room, tears slipping down her face. "Mom," I whispered. She shook her head. I trusted her. "So did I said. Hannah grabbed my phone. "Have you tried calling again?" "She won't answer." "Text her." "What would I say?" "Ask why." I typed slowly. "Why did you do this?" No reply came. Hours passed. Guests finally left. The house felt empty again. My father placed tea in front of me. "Drink." "I'm not thirsty." "Drink anyway," he insisted. My phone buzzed. My heart jumped. It wasn't Lena. It was Sophie. Hannah whispered, "Her best friend?" I nodded and opened the message. "Please call me. You deserve the truth." My hand shook as I dialed. She answered instantly. "I'm so sorry." "Where is she?" I asked. There was silence. "Sophie, tell me." "She left this morning." "I know that." "With Mark." The room spun. I whispered, "What did you say?" "With Mark," she repeated. "My best friend." "I thought you knew." "I didn't know anything," I whispered. Hannah grabbed my arm. "What happened?" I put the call on speaker. Sophie spoke softly. "They've been seeing each other for months." My father gasped. My mother covered her mouth. I asked how long. "Since last winter," Sophie admitted. I laughed weakly. "While I was planning the wedding?" "Yes," she whispered. Memories hit me like knives. Mark staying late to help. Lena smiling at her phone. Private conversations that stopped when I entered. I whispered I trusted him. Sophie cried. "I tried to convince her to tell you." "She didn't," I said coldly. "I'm sorry." "Goodbye, Sophie." I ended the call. The room stayed silent. Hannah whispered, "Mark?" I nodded slowly. My father muttered, "That traitor." My mother began crying again. I stood up. "Everything makes sense now." Hannah asked, "What do you mean?" "All the late nights. All the secrets." My father asked, "Why didn't we see it?" "Because I trusted them," I replied. Hannah hugged me tightly. "I'm here." "I lost 2 people today," I whispered. "You didn't lose yourself," she said. I sat down and stared at the floor. "I feel humiliated," I admitted. "You shouldn't," my father said. "Everyone knows," I replied. "They watched it happen." My mother whispered, "People will forget." "I won't," I said. Hannah squeezed my hand. "We'll get through this." I shook my head. My best friend and my fiancée betrayed me together. My voice cracked. How do I trust anyone again? My father said quietly, "Time will help." I whispered, "Time won't give me back my future." Silence filled the room. I looked at the wedding photo on the table. I picked it up and whispered, "This was supposed to be my forever." Hannah said softly, "You'll find a new forever." I shook my head slowly. Right now, it feels like my entire future was a lie. Weeks passed like I was stuck underwater, unable to breathe properly. I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling while my mother knocked. "You need to eat something," she said. "I'm not hungry." "You've said that for 3 days." "I'm fine." "No, you're not," she replied softly. Hannah walked in behind her. "You're avoiding everyone." "I just need space." "For how long?" she asked. "I don't know." My phone kept ringing. I ignored it until it stopped being important. Work emails piled up. My boss eventually called. "Where are you?" Mr. Bennett's voice was sharp. At home. You've missed deadlines. I know. This isn't like you. Nothing is like me anymore, I said quietly. He paused. Come to the office tomorrow. I'll try. I didn't go. The next day, Hannah stood in front of me with my phone. You need to stop disappearing, she said. I'm not disappearing. I'm just here. You're not here, she replied. I finally left the house one evening just to walk. The streets felt strange. Normal life kept moving like nothing had happened. A couple laughed near shop. I felt angry at them for no reason. At home, bills were stacked on the table. My mother sighed. We can't keep ignoring this, she said. Then don't, I replied. We're trying to help you. I didn't ask for help. I snapped. Hannah stepped in. You're falling apart. Already fell, I said. That night, Mr. Bennett called again. I'm serious. You need to come in, or I'll have to reconsider your position. I don't care, I said. You used to care about this job. Used to, I repeated. After I hung up, I threw my phone on the bed. My mother whispered from the door, We miss you. I'm still here, I said. That's not what I mean, she replied. Days blurred together. I stopped checking messages. I stopped answering calls. I barely ate. I sat in silence most of the time. One night, Hannah forced herself into my room. Get up, she said. No, you haven't left this room in 2 days. I don't need to. She grabbed my arm. Look at me. I didn't. Look at me. She raised her voice. I finally looked. You're breaking, she said. Already broke, I whispered. She let go of my arm slowly. Then fix yourself. I can't. You can, she insisted. I laughed bitterly. Why? So I can feel this again. No, she said. So you don't lose yourself completely. I turned away. There's nothing left. There is, she said firmly. I didn't answer. The next morning, I woke up and saw my phone lighting up again. I opened it without thinking. Photo dead. I froze. Lena and Mark. Smiling. Holding hands. Travel photos. Different cities. Different hotels. My chest tightened. I scrolled faster. Another picture. Another place. Another lie. I whispered. So this is what they're doing. My hand shook. I felt something snap inside me. I called Hannah immediately. Look at my phone, I said. What is it? Just look. Silence on the line. Then she said, They're together. I know, I said. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I replied coldly. They look happy. Hannah hesitated. Are you okay? I laughed once. Do I sound okay? I dropped the phone and sat on the floor. Something inside me burned. Not sadness this time. Something heavier. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked into the kitchen. My mother was there. You saw it, didn't you? She asked. Yes. She sighed. Let out. I already did, I said. No, she whispered. You've been holding in. I sat down slowly. My voice cracked. I feel worthless. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Don't say that. It's true, I said. Hannah entered quietly. You're not worthless. Then why did they leave me? I asked. No one answered. I stood up suddenly. Everything I did was for nothing. Hannah stepped closer. No. Yes, I said. I planned a future with someone who never wanted it. My mother whispered, Please stop blaming yourself. I'm not blaming myself, I said. I just don't understand why wasn't enough. Silence filled the room. Hannah finally spoke. Do you want to know something? What? I asked. She walked closer and said, You didn't lose your life. I looked at her. They lost you. I froze. She continued softly. You gave everything. They threw it away. Something inside me shifted. Not healed. Not fixed. But different. I whispered, They lost me. Yes, she said. Not the other way around. I sat back down slowly. My mother placed a hand on my shoulder. You're still here, Hannah added, and you're not staying broken. I closed my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel completely empty. I whispered, I won't stay like this forever. I began therapy after Hannah insisted I could not keep living like this. I sat in Dr. Lewis' office and said I do not know how to fix myself. Dr. Lewis said you do not fix yourself, you rebuild yourself. I replied, I do not even know where to start. He said start with showing up. I said I showed up, did I? He said physically yes, emotionally no. I stayed silent, not knowing what to say. I said what hurts the most. I said everything. I started going to the gym with Luis. Louise said, first day. I said, yeah, I need to change something. Louise said, pain does not fix pain, discipline does. I said, I just need to stop thinking. He said, then start lifting. I went back to work trying to focus. Maya said, you look like you have not slept in weeks. I said, thanks, I guess. Maya said, not a compliment, just observation. I said, fair enough. Maya said, want coffee break? I said, sure. Dr. Lewis said, what do you struggle with most? I said, revenge and moving forward. He said, focus on growth, not revenge. I said, I want them to suffer. He said, that keeps you trapped. I said, it is not fair. He said, life is not fair, but healing is possible. Hannah said, I heard something about Lena. I said, I do not care. Hannah said, she and Mark are not doing well. I said, why are you telling me this? Hannah said, because you deserve truth. Maya said, you still think about them. I said, sometimes. Maya said, that is normal, but do not live there. I said, I do not know how to let go. Luis said, you're getting stronger. I said, I feel angry still. He said, use it, not drown in it. Dr. Lewis said, what changed in you? I said, I stopped waiting for them. He said, that is progress. I said, I'm trying to become someone new. Maya said, you already are. Maya said, work feels easier now. I said, maybe I'm finally healing. Hannah said, Lena called again. I said, I did not answer. Hannah said, she sounded broken. I said, that is not my problem anymore. Dr. Lewis said, do you feel peace? I said, not peace, just less pain. He said, that is enough for now. Luis said, you can push harder today. I said, I am ready. Maya said, you are different from when I first met you. I said, I was broken then. Maya said, now you are rebuilding. Hannah said, you smile more now. I said, I forgot how before. My mother said, we are proud of you. I said, I am just trying to live. Maya said, I want to grab dinner sometime. I said, yeah, that sounds good. Dr. Lewis said, what do you want now? I said, I want to keep improving. He said, that is your direction. Boss said, your performance is improving. I said, I'm trying my best. Maya said, do you still think about revenge? I said, not anymore. Maya said, that is real growth. Hannah said, I'm glad you stayed strong. I said, I had no other choice. Dr. Lewis said, you are not the same man anymore. I said, I hope that is good. He said, it is very good. Maya said, you inspire people here. I said, I just survived. Maya said, that is why it matters. Hannah said, you finally came back to life. I said, not back forward. Dr. Lewis said, last thing, what do you see now? I said, I see a future again. He said, that is the goal. Maya said, you are smiling more. I said, I did not notice. Hannah said, I am proud of the man you became. I said, I'm still becoming him. Maya said, that is the point. Dr. Lewis said, remember, healing is not linear. I said, I understand that now. Maya said, what changed you the most? I said, losing everything. Maya said, and finding yourself. Hannah said, you are free now. I said, yes, I finally am. Maya said, what comes next? I said, I do not know yet, but it is mine to decide. Dr. Lewis said that uncertainty is life. I said, then, I am ready for it. Maya said, welcome back to yourself. I said, I never left, I just got lost. Hannah said, we are here with you. My mother said, this is your new beginning. I said, then I will make it worth it. Maya said, you already are. I said, for the first time, I'm not surviving, I am living, and it feels right now finally free. I was sitting at work when my phone kept vibrating on the table. I ignored it at first. Maya looked at it and said, that's your phone going crazy. I see it. I replied. Are you going to answer? She asked. No, I said. A minute later, Hannah texted me. Did you hear about Mark? I frowned and typed back, what about him? She replied instantly. He lost his job. I stared at the screen. Maya noticed my face. Bad news. I said, my best friend just got fired. She asked, the same one? I nodded. Yeah. She said softly, that's a lot. I leaned back. I don't even know what I feel. Maya said, you don't have to force a reaction. I replied, I thought I'd feel happy. And, she asked, I don't. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Maya said, answer it. I said, I don't want to. She said, maybe it's closure. I hesitated. Or more pain. She said, you decide. I declined the call. 10 seconds later, it rang again. Same number. Maya said, that's not going away. I sighed. Fine. I answered. A shaky voice said, please don't hang up. I froze. Lena. Yes, she said softly. I said nothing. She whispered, I need to talk to you. I replied, you already said everything on our wedding day. I know, she said quickly, but I need to explain. I said, why now? Because I can't live with it anymore, she said. Maya looked at me and mouthed, "What's happening?" I said quietly, "It's her." Lena said, "Please, just once." I said no. Her voice cracked. "I made a mistake." I stayed silent. She said, "Mark lost his job." I replied coldly, "I know." She whispered, "Everything is falling apart." I said, "So you remember me now?" She started crying. "I didn't know it would become like this." I said, "You didn't care back then?" "I did care," she said. "No," I replied. "You chose him." Silence. Then she said, "Can I meet you?" I hesitated. Maya quietly said, "Closure matters more than anger." I looked at her. "You think I should go?" She said, "I think you need answers." I spoke into the phone. "One meeting. That's it." Lena whispered, "Thank you." Later that evening, I went to a small cafe. My hands felt tense the entire ride. I saw her sitting there before I even reached the table. She stood up immediately. "You came." I said, "Don't make this emotional." She nodded quickly. "Okay." She looked different. Tired. Pale. No confidence in her eyes. She said, "You look better." I replied, "I didn't come for compliments." She swallowed hard. "I messed up everything." I said, "That's not new information." Her eyes filled with tears. "I left you because I was confused." I said, "Confused for months?" She lowered her head. She whispered, "Mark made me feel understood." I leaned forward. "So, I didn't." She said quickly, "It wasn't like that." I replied, "It always is like that." She shook her head. "I thought I was making the right choice." I said, "You ran away on my wedding day." Her voice broke. "I regret it every single day." I stared at her. Something inside me moved, but I didn't show it. She said, "Everything fell apart after I left you." I replied, "That's not my responsibility." She wiped her face. "I lost everything." I said quietly, "No, you lost me first." Silence stretched between us. She whispered, "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at her for a long moment. I said, "Forgiveness isn't the question." She asked, "Then what is?" I replied, "Why it took losing everything for you to realize my worth." She had no answer. I stood up. She said quickly, "Wait, please." I said, "I came for closure, not reopening wounds." She whispered, "I still love you." I paused, then said, "Love doesn't look like what you did." Her shoulders dropped. "So that's it?" I nodded. "Yes." As I walked away, she called my name once. I didn't turn back. Outside, the air felt lighter. Not happy, just clearer. Maya texted me. "How did it go?" I replied, "It's over." She responded, "And how do you feel?" I looked at the message and thought for a moment. Then I typed free. For the first time, I understood something deeply. Karma wasn't loud. It didn't need revenge. It simply returned everything to where it belonged. I was sitting at my desk when Mr. Bennett called me into his office. He said, "I have something for you." I replied, "If it's another warning, I'm not interested." He smiled slightly. "It's not a warning. It's a promotion." I paused. "What?" He said, "You've been performing exceptionally these past months." I asked, "Even after everything?" He nodded. "Especially after everything." I sat there for a moment and said, "I didn't expect this." He replied, "You earned it." When I walked out, Maya was waiting near the corridor. She asked, "Good news face or bad news face?" I said, "Promotion." Her eyes widened. "Seriously?" I nodded. She smiled. "I told you, you were rebuilding yourself." I said, "Feels strange." She replied, "That's growth." Later that day, Hannah hugged me tightly. She said, "I'm proud of you." I replied, "I didn't do anything special." She said, "You survived yourself. That's special." I stayed quiet for a second. Maybe I did. At home, my mother said, "You're different now." I asked, "Better or worse?" She said softly, "Stronger." That night my phone rang again. Unknown number. I already knew who it was. I answered Lena. Her voice shook. "You always know it's me." I said, "Because I remember everything." She said, "I heard about your promotion." I replied, "So did I." She paused. "I'm happy for you." I said, "You don't need to be." She whispered, "Can we talk properly?" I said, "We already did." She said, "I made another mistake." I asked, "What now?" She said, "Mark is gone from my life completely." I replied, That was always going to happen. She cried softly. I don't have anyone now. I said, that's not my responsibility anymore. Maya walked in and saw me on the phone. She mouthed her. I nodded slightly. Lena said, I miss you. I replied, you miss the version of me you lost. She whispered, no, I miss you. I said, then you should have stayed. Silence. She said, do you hate me? I thought for a moment. No. She sounded surprised. No. I said, hate means you still matter in my present. You don't. Her voice cracked. So I mean nothing now? I replied, you mean my past. She begged one chance. I said, there are no chances left to give. She cried harder. I ruined everything. I said, yes, you did. Then I ended the call. Maya asked, closure again? I said, final this time. At dinner, Hannah said, she called again? I nodded. She asked, what did she want? I said, what she always wants. Time back. Hannah said, and you? I said, I don't want anything anymore from that chapter. My mother looked at me and said, you sound peaceful. I said, not peaceful, just done. The next day at work, people treated me differently. A colleague said, you've changed a lot. I replied, I had to. Maya smiled. You're not reacting anymore. I said, there's nothing left to react to. She asked, what about revenge? I said, I already got it without trying. She said, how? I replied, life did it for me. That evening, Hannah said, you don't talk about her anymore. I said, because she's not part of me now. She asked, do you still think about her? I said, honestly, less every day. She smiled. That's healing. Later, I sat alone and realized something quietly. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel loss either. Just distance. My phone stayed silent for days. No calls. No messages. Maya said, you look lighter. I replied, I feel like I'm finally standing where I belong. She asked, and where is that? I said, ahead. Hannah hugged me and said, you took your life back. I replied, no. I built a new one. And for the first time, I understood the shift clearly. I was no longer chasing answers, apologies, or justice. I already had control again. I texted Lena, one last meeting. After this, no more contact. She replied instantly, thank you for giving me this. I arrived early at the cafe. My hands were calm, something I never expected. Maya texted me, you okay? I replied, ending something today? She sent, then start something after. Lena walked in a few minutes later. She stopped when she saw me. You came, she said softly. I replied, I said I would. She nodded. I wasn't sure anymore. I said, neither was I in the past. She sat down slowly. You look different. I replied, I am. Silence sat between us for a moment. Then she said, I don't even know where to start. I said, start with why you're here. She looked down. I'm here to say I'm sorry. I replied, you already said that before. She whispered, this time I mean it fully. I leaned back. Go on. She said, I ruined the best thing in my life. I replied, you didn't just ruin mine. You rewrote it without me. Her eyes filled. I thought I was making the right choice. I said, people always do when they leave someone. She shook her head. I lost everything after you. I replied, you didn't lose me. You left me. She whispered, can we try again? I looked at her for a long moment. I said calmly, no. She blinked. Just no. I replied, yes. Just no. She froze. I changed. I said, so did I. She reached forward slightly. I still love you. I gently moved my hand back. Love without respect is just regret. She started crying. I don't know how to live with this. I said, you will. Like I did. She whispered, are you happy now? I thought for a second. I'm not tied to pain anymore. She said softly, so this is really goodbye. I nodded. It already was. I just came to confirm it. She lowered her head. I'm sorry. I said, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. That made her cry harder. I stood up slowly. She said, wait, what about us? I replied, there is no us left to discuss. She whispered, I wish I could go back. I said, I don't. I left her sitting there and walked out of the cafe without looking back. Outside, the air felt different. Not heavy anymore. Just open. Maya was waiting outside. She smiled. Done. I said, done. She asked, how do you feel? I thought for a moment. Light. She nodded. Coffee. I said, yeah. We sat at a small table outside. She said, that was brave. I replied, it was necessary. She asked, do you ever think about the wedding day? I said, not the pain anymore. Just the lesson. She smiled. And what did you learn? I looked at the cup in my hands. That losing everything forced me to find myself. She said softly, and was it worth it? I looked at her and replied, I didn't lose everything. I lost what wasn't meant for me. She nodded. Good answer. I leaned back and watched the street move normally again. For the first time, I wasn't stuck in the past. I said quietly, I think I finally understand something. Maya asked what? I replied, life didn't end when she left. It started after. She smiled. That sounds like a new chapter. I said, it is. And as I sat there with my coffee, I realized I wasn't the man left at the altar anymore. I was the man who walked away from it.